the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Final two here. The Toronto Maple Leafs, Bryan.
Ooh, this is a fun one for you, Bryan.
Yeah, it is.
This is a fun one.
Yeah, so...
many are saying this is the year they win the Stanley Cup.
Many say that quite a bit.
I was going to say, many have been saying that since more than 6 teams were in the league.
And since I was
born.
Since I am wearing a hat of the NFL's own Toronto Maple Leafs, essentially, I mean, it's hard because I think by nature I'm kind of pessimistic about teams, and aside from the fact that it's incredibly fun to make fun of the Maple Leafs just because it's a universal bonding thing. I mean, they're such an interesting franchise to look at because it's one of those where, you know, it reminds me like of kind of Dallas in the late 90s as they're coming out of those Super Bowl wins, or you know, like the 49ers were kind of in that same era. You know, teams like St. Louis before they finally kind of pushed themselves over, like those teams that were like, they had the talent, they were almost right there, but just something happened. And it's, again, like, I mean, if you look at the team, I mean, they've got 3 guys that are making over $10 million in Auston Matthews, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner. And that's probably what in total, that's $34 million well spent. I mean, yeah. I think that's fine. I think you justify paying that much for those 3 players. I mean, I think honestly, they probably could have paid that 13, the new deal with Matthews at 13, still not a bad deal. And he got that only for 4 years too. So, I mean, those are guys that you want. You got William Nylander, who, you know, give it, let's say 2 months before we start to hear the Nylander to Nashville trade rumors again. But that'll happen. But then, of course, you've got guys like Tyler Bertuzzi. Speaking of guys like Corey Perry with like Max Domi, and there was one guy on the team, which also, before I get to him, they brought in John Klingberg, longtime Dallas guy, $4.1 million. I mean, granted, most of my memories of John Klingberg are kind of tainted with him in overtime, or was it overtime or the end of regulation when he was bringing the puck around? They were down a goal with the goalie pulled, and
the end of regulation. Yeah,
his skate caught.
I was there for that game. Goal. It was great.
Yeah,
Nick Bonino converting on that.
Or yes, rest in peace, buddy. We miss you. A guy that I was so wrong about and ended up loving so much. But yeah, so like, I don't know that's it. I mean, you've got guys where it's kind of, it's like one of those, again, it's hard because, again, you look at a team like this and you're like, on paper, this should be a pretty good team. On paper, this is a team that I think is in position to succeed. I think that they are still a team that the talent where they're at, like those 4 or 5 teams we talked about at the bottom of the division, like those are teams that could have the talent and be very, very good, but Toronto has it now, you know? And so there's that, you know, you got Ilya Samsonov and Martin Jones, you know, in there, and Joseph Wolf and net, which is fine. Mark Giordano, I completely forgot that he was there. I didn't also realize he was 39 years old. Holy moly. But talk about another guy who had a career season last year. And I had a quote, and I can't find it right now, from some guy who talked about this player a few years back, saying that his game had become more complete and with his previous team over the final years that he was there with the team. He was always been a guy that was kind of a glue guy, a do everything third line type of player. But he started to come out and be kind of a player, being able to start making plays of his own. And that's what we saw last year in Toronto with my boy, Calle Jarnkrok, scoring a career-high 20 goals last season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I really like Calle Jarnkrok, and I'm happy that he's succeeding. I think he's been doing, you know, I'm glad that he wasn't just a guy who Nashville fans will remember and everybody else will be like, oh yeah, him. I think he's a good player. He's not going to be some Hall of Famer. He's not going to be a guy that's going to change the outcome of a ton of games for the Maple Leafs, but it's super cool to see, since that he left the Predators, the last 4 seasons, last two with the Predators, 15 goals, 13 goals, and then 12 goals, then 20. So, I mean, and that was split between the Flames and the Kraken a year ago, but it's a guy that it's cool to see. The Iron Hook has always been that type of player, but hey, you know what? He became like, he's Craig Smith now. He's got 20 goals. He's the Craig Smith now, like that's where he's at. So I think that's really cool. Obviously organizationally, Kyle Dubas is gone. Which again, like objectively you could say like, I don't know if they should have done that, but at the same time, I can understand why you want to go with the fresh start. And again, they got business taken care of, getting guys signed. They're a team that's got they're just an interesting team, because again, it's like you look at it and you're like, okay, this is Toronto, so there should be more wrong with this team than I'm not seeing. And throughout the regular season, you're gonna be like, no, everything looks great. They are that good. But I just don't know that that's gonna last. Like, is Morgan Riley gonna be back in form? I'm not sure. So, I mean, it's hard. I think of any of the rest of the teams that we're talking about, I think they have the biggest, I think they could regress, just because they're a very top heavy team, but, look at the depth, see, goaltending, I'm not entirely sure with, it's not super strong. But, it's hard to see, them being able to be a much better team. Like, I don't see them keeping up with a team like Florida, just the way that Florida is built. Now, again, we're basing Florida's future performance based off of a pretty good playoff run. But I feel, I feel pretty confident with the fact that team got better. And there's not a ton for Toronto that I think that makes them that takes an already very, very good team, very good regular season team, and makes them that much better. So, I mean, yeah, just because they didn't improve as much, mostly just because they didn't have as much room to improve. But, it's hard. It's hard to sit there and be like, this is the year. This is the one. You got Bertuzzi, Domi, Klingberg. Like, I just don't think those guys are going to be difference makers. I mean, just being honest. And they're going to have a really good special teams. They're going to have a good offense. But I mean, again, like, I think Nylander, for whatever reason why Toronto fans don't like him, like, I think he'll move this season after, years of rumors. But I mean, we'll see. They're a hard team to kind of peg, just for the fact that it's like they did stuff. It's not, nothing's bad, but like, I don't see anything that convinces me that this is the year they get over the hump.
I like it. Final team here, the Boston Bruins, who would give anything for the season to start tomorrow, to just make the lasting memory of this offseason being what happened to the Bruins, that all of NHL fans outside of the good folks up there in Boston enjoyed immensely what happened to the Bruins, made history in the way that you really don't want to make history. An all-time great year. I think it's fair to say, probably not going to replicate that in the regular season next year. Might be a guess. We get to see how much they're going to rest guys, because that is going to be a talking point all year in Boston, is who gets rest.